And now we're live.
Good morning. He had me over here going, good morning. And he was like, wait. I'm like, ha.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Warrior to Love. My name is Philip Ailes, and this is
Christy.
and we're here to discuss today our episode 3. It's called Balancing the Warrior to the Lover. And welcome back to another Warrior to Love. I'm Philip. This is my lovely wife and co-host, Christy. I know we repeated it. Today, we're diving into one of the biggest challenges of warriors in relationships. Finding balance between the warrior mindset and being an emotionally present partner. I think that's a real big thing because a lot of times we get into it, we don't know, or we're not paying attention to being in the moment.
Well, I think, for many veterans and first responders and high performance professionals, things like that, it's really hard to shift from mission mode into like a relationship mode, right?
Yes.
You're trained to be strong. You're trained to be focused. You're trained to always be ready for action, right? And that's something that we absolutely love about our spouses, and some of us are also in some kind of field like that. So we do understand something. We might not be a warrior, but we might have some kind of first responder training or something like that. So we understand some of that stuff. Some of us don't, but we understand that, and that's something that we really and truly love about our partner. However, that sometimes in a relationship, that mindset can create some distance. So we're here to kind of talk about that.
Exactly. Because a lot of times I look at it, I've lived firsthand. I spent many years thinking what love was and thinking about protection and providing. But I've learned the rule of love is about being present.
Yeah.
Connection.
Mm-hmm.
And vulnerability. I think that vulnerability one's the hardest because a lot of the times we are taught not to be vulnerable at all because we looked at it as a sign of weakness and not having control.
I don't think necessarily that people don't have vulnerability prior. I think that sometimes people are raised with vulnerability. I think sometimes vulnerability isn't necessarily something that people don't have, but I think that a lot of times in the military, it is kind of coached out, and it has to be. I don't think that the military is wrong with that necessarily. I think that you have to at some point take some of that out because, for safety purposes, right?
Yes.
But also I think that you have a camaraderie with people, and I think that camaraderie that you have, it's a family, and I think it's a fantastic family, but also there's a lot that happens in that family where you learn not to kind of show some of that vulnerability and stuff. And then when you get back here, you don't want to show anything that is perceived as weakness because of society's standards and society's things.
It's the missions we did,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else, and the interconnection that we had with our fellow soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
But we forget that when we get back into our partner position, to where it's hard to switch from that warrior to that lover.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that helps me is grounding myself. But to the most part, it's understanding your environment that you're currently in. And that's one of the things they taught us is situational awareness. But when it comes to our personal life, I don't think it's as ingrained into us to create those bonds.
Well, I think sometimes the definition of vulnerability is kind of also misunderstood, right? So I think sometimes a warrior might think vulnerability is like, breaking down, and I don't want to break down and show my emotions, right? That's vulnerability to them. I don't want to break down and show that, I'm upset, so I'm going to cry about this, or I'm, like that's some kind of vulnerability that they're thinking of. And that's not necessarily vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is showing, I have the desire to sit down and talk with you about this because I want to work through it, right? That's also vulnerability. There's a lot of different things that are vulnerability, vulnerability has everything to do with putting your feelings, your emotions, and things out there where someone else can really hurt you, right? Or can impact you. And so that has a lot to do with all those things. And so vulnerability can be a lot of different things. And so learning how to put yourself out there and being brave with that, you're brave every single day with being on the front lines and allowing people to shoot at you and doing stuff like that.
That's
However,
easy.
yeah, but saying to someone, I love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, or I am willing to sit down and work something out with you, and I want to compromise. I want to learn how to compromise with you, or I want to build my relationship back with my children, or something of that nature. And can you teach me how to do this? Or can you help me do this? Those are vulnerable moments. And it's really hard for someone who has to reach out and say that to somebody, right?
Yes.
So
that's what I've gotten. And I've noticed that it's like living two dual lives, or not two dual situations, or identities. You can be the warrior or the lover, or versus lover. Because if I look at it, it's hard to balance both mindsets. The warrior keeps me alive. It's been my friend for my whole life. And now to be able to understand the difference between the warrior and the lover. The big difference between the warrior mode, man, your mission, you're disciplined, protective, analytical, emotionally guarded, because you don't want to sit down and break down and cry in the middle of an operation, because it defeats your purpose. But now in the lover mode, we have to be present. Being present is probably one of the hardest things to do, because my brain, especially my ADHD brain, it's going off on 50 different things at once, and being able to focus down and understand the purpose of being present. Because I was always looking for the next mission, and you got to be open to all possibilities.
I think your mission's just changed. Your mission has changed to become present. Your mission's changed to become, a partner. And your mission's changed to be present and learn how to make that connection. And
well, I think the emotional connection is paramount, because without that emotional care, drive, and everything, and I think with that, it's more nurturing. More nurturing from you, of realizing that I don't have to fight everything. I don't have to sit there and come up with the failure or successes solely on my shoulders. Now with you, I have a partner,
right?
And that's a definitely struggle.
But I think the thing is that there are a lot of partners that are there the whole entire time. And because you're kind of stuck in that warrior mindset, you don't see that partner, right? That partner's there with you. And a lot of it is that you're stuck in that warrior mindset. You're not seeing that you can be both of those. You can be both of those people for the partner that you have there. It was interesting. We were speaking the other day. There's a fantastic program here in our town where warriors get together and meet up and things like that. And we were talking about what we were doing and how we were having this moment, and the things that we're doing here, and how we're building these lives so that we can work on our podcast. And they were like, wow, I think that's really going to connect with a lot of people. And and it's, it's in our beginning stages. We weren't consistent last week. So, we don't have a lot of people here today just because we weren't consistent. That's our own fault. But one of the things that we were talking about, Philip pointed out how, sometimes when he comes in to kind of decompress, he might, can you please turn that? Thank you.
Sorry. My phone went off.
Yeah. It's a pet peeve. Like, it just makes my anxiety. So
yeah, there you go. And in the moment.
So he was talking and there were a couple of people around, and he was like, when I'm trying to decompress and I'm on the phone, I'm just kind of decompressing, doing some things. And she tries to talk to me. And, at some point, my response is, at some point it becomes, what?
I'm trying to concentrate and do what I'm doing, and I hear white noise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was very interesting for me to see every warrior in that group go, sounds familiar. Yeah. Like, mm-hmm. Some of them have been divorced a couple times. All of them had gone through the same thing. So it was really interesting that everything that we decided to kind of talk about, to say and to talk about the war in this specific moment, when we said this was what was coming up, they were all like, oh, yeah, that's hard. It's hard to go from a warrior mindset into a lower mindset. It's hard to toggle between the two of them and to be able to put away that adrenaline and put away that.
Oh, that's hard.
I have to think about this kind of mindset to be that person. But, to be fair, one of the things that we truly love about our warriors is that mindset. So, you can't take that away. We don't want to take that away. We want both. We want our cake and eat it too. I mean, honestly, let's be fair. We do want both. But the biggest thing is that, one of the things that we absolutely truly love, or what I love, is that discipline side of him, that protective side of him, that analytical side of him. I love all of those things. Not the emotionally guarded side. That's the side that I struggle with, because I want him to be present with me. I want him to share his feelings with me. I want him to tell me what he's thinking. I want to know those things. And we have come a long way to get there. It wasn't easy to do that. It wasn't easy to start sharing those things. Yeah. But the other things, he's incredible at, right? So those are the things that I fell in love with and that I want and that I enjoy being with him about. And those are some of the things that are not necessarily my strengths, right? Well, I can be protective, but it's a scary thing. So,
sometimes I like it.
I need him to be the right kind of protective. I might end up in jail if I use my protective side. So we can't be doing that. So, there's just a lot that I think, but I don't necessarily know that the wives communicate the things that they love in that aspect about their warrior. Like, you don't necessarily tell them, hey, this is what I love that you sleep between me and the door. I love that you have a plan on how, if somebody breaks in, this is what we're going to Mr. and Mrs. Smith this thing. Like, you got a plan. We got this. We know what we're doing. Like, this is how we're going to get out of this house. Right. Like, I have a planner. I know when I go somewhere, if something happens on the road, he's got everything that I need to get out of that situation, or he's got a plan for it. Like, right. There was one time we were in a situation where we were staying at a friend's house, and I don't know what was in the air, but we could not breathe for whatever reason. There was some reason we couldn't breathe. And we were in a situation where we didn't think we were going to be able to really leave. And you went and got something and
Whoopee.
And he put it over the bed, and it totally filtered the air, and we were able to sleep. And I'd have never thought to do that. I mean, come on. But here is my warrior who is planning and making things happen and protecting me in that situation. He was a little put out and perturbed. I mean, not gonna lie. I mean, very put out and perturbed. There was a little bit of a disconnect there. We had to, once we got where we could breathe and function a little bit better, everything kind of calmed down. We were able to talk it out and talk through. We did end up leaving that situation. And it was probably the best thing we ever could have done. But
sometimes you got to talk.
Yeah, but we had to talk it out and and see the best situation for that. But again, that was my warrior coming through, and he worked through being a warrior in order to become my lover and show and then work it out so that we could be safe and in the best situation. So you're both, you know, you're not just one, you're both, right?
And that's why warrior struggles in relationships. Because that mission first mentality and service works, because you have to be able to accomplish the mission. But versus emotional availability at home, that's a tough one. Because my why vulnerability feels like a weakness is because we have to let down all the guards that we put up, our walls and everything. And most of the time we're taught to suppress emotions.
I think vulnerability is hard for everybody, though. I do.
I think it's even harder for warriors.
Yeah, it is harder for warriors, but I think it's hard for everybody, and it's something that it's a skill that you have to practice.
Oh, a lot of it's learning to process those emotions rather than I'll just tuck them deep down and never talk about it again. But it's all good. Because I when I first met her, I had a hard time trusting her because I'd been hurt before in the past, and I needed her to heal me and get my mindset into a better place.
I told him I wasn't going to do that. He had to do that on his own, just for the record.
No, you told me I didn't. You're not going to find me friends.
I told you that too, but also I told him he had to be doing all that stuff on his own because I was not going to be his person for that. He had to be all those things that he had to carry himself on his own. That's a whole, but anyway. So when was the time where you felt like you were stuck in warrior mode? Was there a time where you felt like you were stuck in warrior mode that you can think of off the top of your head?
I think when I first met you, I was stuck in warrior mode.
Yeah, I think there are times now where sometimes you still get stuck in warrior mode.
Well, it's because it's hard for me to open my heart, mind, and soul, because I've had to be guarded on everything I did, and there's certain emotions that you don't even think of. I don't think of love when I'm overseas working on stuff, but to the most part, it's right. I needed to recognize when I was in the warrior mode, because I never recognized that I was actually even doing it. I thought it was just me protecting me. But life changed when you came into my world.
I can tell you a time when he was kind of stuck in warrior mode, and I didn't realize how he was kind of protecting me because the communication wasn't there on how he was protecting me. We traveled in an RV for a couple of years.
That was great.
And we were in New Mexico. We're in
Mexico.
So we're in New Mexico. Anyway, we were kind of learning as we went along, but we were in the RV and we had left our canopy out on the RV while we went to visit the girls. And when we came back, of course, there's some high winds there.
High winds in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yeah. And so anyway, the canopy was destroyed.
Oh, yeah. There was no saving it.
But we had to get it, like, you had to be able to close it, right?
Yes.
And so we were there and we were kind of struggling to close it. And he didn't freak out over the canopy. Like, that was the thing. Like, that's the interesting thing to me about a warrior, right? Like,
we can handle the big stuff.
Yeah,
it's the little stuff.
It's the things that you think are going to be like something that's going to blow up, and there's no reaction to that. It's okay, let's just get this done kind of thing, right? So that to me was something that was an adjustment period for me to understand, because I could sit here and my whole back glass sliding door could break, and he would be like, all right, well, let's clean this up and see how we're going to fix this. And I would be having a massive panic attack over here. Like, oh my God, where's the glass? Is my dog going to step on the glass? How are we going to close this up? It's going to be cold in here. Like now the bugs are going to come in. Like there's a million things going through my head. And his holding thought is we're going to clean this, figure out how to fix it. It's going to be fine. We're just going to handle it. Right. But he might knock over a jar of pens and lose his ever loving shit because he knocked over a jar of pens. Like in the meantime, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna pick up the pens. So it's a completely different mindset when it comes to those kind of things, right? Like the big things are going to make me panic. The big things are not going to make him panic. The little things are not going to make me panic, and they're going to just.
So So basically, how do you know you're stuck in?
Oh, hold on, I'm still talking about my.
Okay. I thought you were done.
I'm done. I'm talking about this dang thing. So anyway, I was trying to help him put in this canopy, and so thankful to see the girls. The girls just showed up with like, I think they were going to make us dinner or something. I don't know, but they came walking around the corner. They had bags of groceries in their hands, and I was like, oh, "Thank God you're here. Help me!" And they took one look at it, and they were like, "Oh, this is bad, right? Like, let me help." And they did immediately start helping, and I was glad because they kind of became my buffer when things were almost done. That is when it kind of hit him. And he got a little frustrated because I had my hands in the way when he was trying to force the thing closed. He was not upset about forcing the thing closed. What he was upset about was that I very easily could have gotten very hurt. And he kind of like came at me, and I was like, I'm just going to walk away. I need to walk away from this. They kind of became that buffer because they were not in any danger. Right. So, but later on was when he communicated to me, I wasn't angry with you for helping me. I wasn't angry with the situation. I wasn't angry with you. I was angry that you could have gotten hurt. And so, you know, that was his kind of warrior mode. He was making things happen, fixing things, getting everything done. But then later on, he kind of had to switch gears and go back into let me emotionally connect with my wife and explain to her why I kind of snapped at her, what happened in this situation. I don't want her to be upset. I don't want her to feel like I don't love her. I need her to know I do love you. This is what my concern was, and this is how I want to fix that. So sorry, what did you ask me?
No, I was looking at how signs that you know you're stuck in a warrior mode. You react instead of responding to in conversations. That's when it goes back that I'm in the middle of something. You're distracting me and I snap.
I have no patience for that, just for the record.
Yeah, you struggle how to show affection or express emotions. That's one I struggle with every day, is expressing my emotions. And when I feel frustrated that things aren't structured or controlled, that's a big one. That's a big stressor. And that's something I've dealt with forever.
You're going to get an 8-hour lecture on why it's not structured in the way he wants it to be structured that way and how you're supposed to fix it.
Yeah. And that's prioritizing logic over emotion.
Even totally logical, just for the record. Sometimes there's nothing I can do to fix it in that moment. And what do you want me to do? And I'm just listening to you vent about how it's not in your favor.
Nah. For a long time, I thought showing emotion meant I wasn't in control. It really being able to express myself made me a stronger partner and a better leader. Because how to shift gears, I try to intentional decompression, taking time after work in stressful situation to reset before engaging in family life. You got to have that waiting to exhale.
Sometimes you don't always get that. You know, sometimes when you come home from work, sometimes your spouse is at home with the children, and they're waiting for you to come home. They're waiting for you to come to break. They've been home with the baby. The baby's been crying all day. The baby's been, they've been doing all of the things with the baby. And they just cannot wait for you to get home because they need a break. They just need 10 minutes. They just need 10 minutes to sit down and decompress because that's their job. and they can't wait for you to get home, and you're coming home from working all day and all you want to do is decompress.
Yeah.
And so that is where communication is huge. You have to have that moment, and you have to make sure that you guys are working together, because there's a lot of young couples that are struggling with that right now. And I think we've both kind of been through that situation.
It's a power struggle.
And he will tell you, watching his daughter go through that now, I think Philip will truly admit that, he wasn't there in that situation. He didn't know to be there in that situation. He wasn't raised in that kind of family life. So he did not know how to be there when that happened like that. So, we'll probably do a segment on that at some point, but there's, in this kind of situation, like when we're talking about decompression, everybody needs time to decompress, but sometimes you have to put that decompression on hold for a few minutes, because your partner might be at 0 and they might need you for a few more minutes. So when you're coming in the door and you might think, I can't do another thing, sometimes you might have to step up and do one more thing to help your partner before you can do that decompression. And sometimes, that decompression might be holding your baby. Yeah. So you have to kind of reset that mindset and say, I'm going to be my partner. I'm going to be a partner for my person. And if it means I'm going to sit on this couch and just hold my baby, that might be what you need to do. So,
and a lot of it is communication, because with that is relaying what's going on in my head. And a lot of stuff I don't say because there's no need to worry her. But
I don't need to know.
That's about
Don't tell me I don't need to know.
Physically and emotionally checked in. Asking yourself, am I reacting out of a habit or being fully present? I think that's one of the things, because it's hard to get back in there when you're used to high speed, low drag, and get in here and there's nothing. I understand now why partners and everything of veterans or military personnel have the struggles, because now I get to see it. I went from being the warrior. Now I just wait for her to come home.
Yeah, I think that you had some of the same struggles. I think the same struggles were there. I think it was just that at the time you weren't opening your eyes to them, right? Yeah. Like, all of these same struggles have been there the whole time. They were there. I think that it is a matter of communication. It's a matter of having that person that is willing to work through it, having and it's not to say that the other person wasn't willing to work through it. It was just that it wasn't recognized.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's why I think we want to do this, because, if we can save that, if we can help with that, if we can show where we've gotten here, and, nobody gets married to get divorced. Right. So, if there is a way for warriors to find that and help them and their spouses, then we absolutely want to do that. I mean, we're just normal people, but we want to make sure that we can communicate that and help people. So if there's someone that we can help, or some way that we can help, we want to make sure that our story and the way that we are doing this is able to help somebody. So, I think that one of the biggest things that we've kind of learned is that sometimes you have to think about what your emotions are. Mm-hmm. Before reacting. You have to think about what you're feeling. You could think about, right, what is that trigger? But you also have to think about, like, what am I going to say and how is it going to come across? Right? Like, is it going to, for me, if I say this, how is it going to be perceived, and is it going to kind of trigger that warrior in there? Right. So I have to think about that. Sometimes I honestly don't care, and I'm going to say it anyway, and I'm going to deal with the consequences. I'll be damned. But sometimes it's a matter of, let's see what I can say to kind of minimize my sin. And I don't want to this way, it's going to
Escalate.
Not necessarily escalate. It's going to put you in that warrior mindset. And you don't want to be in that warrior mindset, because I want to be able to communicate, right?
Well, how do we find harmony between strength and love?
We communicate, we talk about it. I mean, that's.
Well, a lot of it is because I see you now. And that's what we'll get into next time, is being seen by your other partner.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things we can find harmony in is daily transition rituals. Simple steps that take deep breathing, listening to music, or taking a walk before engaging in personal time. Basically, self-love, self-care, get your mind, your body, and everything in balance. And expressing love in a way that feels authentic. Some warriors struggle with words, but show love through their actions. Find out what works for you. And in building an emotional awareness, learning to sit with emotions instead of suppressing them. That's a big one. I had to go through equine therapy and a couple other therapies to understand that it's me and the way I interact with you. And
you're preaching to the choir. I'm an equestrian. I think it's a great.
But for you, what do you have? It's patience and understanding that you get through it.
Like, are you asking me how I get through all these things?
Yeah, recognizing emotional openness to learn skill of many warriors.
I don't say a lot of what I think. I just keep myself quiet most of the time.
Well, that's not communicating.
Well, no, I mean, I do communicate, but like, there's a lot of times where sometimes things are better left unsaid.
Okay.
Like there's things that, sometimes you don't have to say everything that comes to your mind.
Oh, that's true.
Like, also, like.
Well, a lot of it is meeting.
So, because sometimes when you're angry, or sometimes when you're frustrated with a situation, and you think something that is not nice or not kind, you don't have to say that. You don't have to say it. Because you create more damage than you.
Sometimes you got to know when to shut the heck up.
Right. Like, and here's the thing, like, you can think about what you were feeling and what that was, and come back later and revisit it. And there's a lot of things we talked about. So there's a lot of situations that we talked about in the beginning when we were talking about communication and things like that. And I have friends that do different things. Like, I have one friend who struggles with communication, just being able to say how she feels and what she thinks. What her and her husband have done is she has like and he's a veteran, but she struggles with being able to talk in the face of his big feelings. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what she does is he has little different stuffed animals for her that mean different things. So when she has a specific feeling, that little stuffed animal's out on the counter. And he knows, okay, she is feeling upset today. I need to give her a little bit of space on that. And at some point, we're going to talk about why she's upset, but it's not going to be right now. It's going to be when she brings that stuffed animal to me, and we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it. That gives her time to think about what she wants to say, how she wants to approach it, what she wants to do, so that she can get that together and then address it. If she were to spit out to him exactly what she was upset with at that moment, those are words you cannot take back, and things that you can't, once those words are out of your mouth, you can't take them back.
Watch your words, because they can cut deep.
So why would I just spit out whatever I'm thinking? Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me. There's no sense in saying things in anger or anything like that. I just don't think that's really my way. I think that very rarely do I really do that. And I think that you can agree that if there is a situation where he's upset about something, if he is, and Philip's way is once he's stuck on something, he will beat it to
It's called
death.
hyper focus.
Beat it to death. And I will, no matter what I'm thinking, I will let it go and let it go and let it go and let it go. And he will tell you what will happen is eventually those things will go in my head, and I will be gathering my thoughts and gathering my thoughts and gathering my thoughts. And then slowly my head will turn. And he's like, oh shit. Because what I'm going to do is spit facts. It's not emotional. It's not anything like that. It's just full on facts about the situation. And they're going to come out, and they don't typically come out very nice. Not meaning that they come out emotionally not nice. I don't attack him in any way, but I say exactly what is happening in that situation, and it's very factful.
So that's meet me where I'm at.
I don't know. I don't see you at that moment because
you're understanding. You're understanding my love language and how my communication style.
Yeah, but I've kind of been pushed, right? I've been pushed to that point. But
don't push him.
If I can get up and walk away from a situation and come back later on and say, listen, when we were having this discussion the other day, you said XYZ to me, and I feel like it's ABC because you're saying that I am doing this. That is not my intention. Yeah. Like I'll give you a good example. Okay. Well, no, I want to save that for us being seen. Never mind. I'm not going to do that example. I'm not, because it's a good example for being seen. But, there's times when Philip feels like I'm manipulating him, right? There is no manipulation here. It's about life. So if I'm being accused of manipulation, it's frustrating for me to say, no, that's not where I'm coming from. No, that's not my train of thought. No, I am not. This is not my goal. This is not where I'm thinking. His response to that is, you're telling me how I feel. No, I'm not telling you how you feel. I'm telling you what my intention is, right? So I have to wait in that moment, because in that moment, he's not going to hear what I'm saying because he's stuck in his mindset. And there's no way that I'm going to break that cycle, that mindset. I have to let him get through that so that he can get into a different mindset. I can come back and say, listen, this is how you think that I'm behaving. However, what I truly am doing is this, right? Yes. Oh, I have a good example of that. So this is kind of a dumb example, but it's the truth. Okay. So, Philip was doing, it's just a miscommunication thing, right? So it's, I listened one time, he was on some kind of call. There were it was a warrior call, believe it or not. There were a bunch of warriors in this call, and all of them were talking about how their women came home and they just, I can't remember if it was, they didn't have any desire for them anymore or something like that, because all the women came home and just put on their pajamas. They didn't dress up for them anymore. They didn't wear sundresses. They took their makeup off. They I see your smile because you know. So it was this whole
they go plain.
It was this whole about how the women were, just giving up on their men, and they didn't do anything for their men anymore. And it was like they didn't go out of their way when they got home from work for their men anymore. And he got off that call and he came in and he was talking to me about it, and he was like, you used to wear these sundresses, and now it's like you got me, and this is, and
don't want to go anywhere.
He was all on this thing. He wouldn't listen to me. He was going to have his conversation. He had just gotten off this. He was gung ho because he had just gotten off this call. Man, was I mad? But I just let him talk and everything. So I waited and waited and waited. The next day, I came back and I sat down and I said, listen, you remember this call you had last night? And he goes, yeah, do I ever remember this call? And I said, well, let me just tell you something. I said, when a woman first meets you, she's wearing her sundresses, putting on her makeup, doing all these things.
Trying to trap you.
No, because she's not really comfortable around you. When you're married to a woman and the woman is coming home to you, you're her safe space. She's coming home and getting comfortable in her safe space. If she's coming home and dressing up for you in the house, this isn't a safe space right now. When she gets off work, the first thing she's going to do is take off her bra.
which we don't mind.
Yeah. But in that conversation, in that whole call, that was the complaint. That's what was going on, right? She's going to come home and get in her most comfortable clothes and sit down to relax with her person. There is no manipulation there. There is no, so this whole warrior thing was all, they were stuck in this whole mindset about, oh, there's this whole like conspiracy, right? About what we were doing. There was no conspiracy there. We were just getting comfortable. Okay. I had to sit down and have this. As soon as I started talking about it and explaining what our goal was, what we were doing and why we were comfortable and why you see us like with our bed head, no makeup and comfortable clothes, he was like, oh, I want to be your safe space. Come home, take off your bra, get in your comfortable clothes. You don't have to wear a sundress for me. We'll wear a sundress when we go out. Like, I'm down with that. Yeah, but we had to get past that mindset that he was in where he felt
didn't care.
Yeah, he was stuck in that, like he was ready to fight. Like it was a fight mindset. I had to get past that and through that into, can you listen to me and communicate with me so that I can explain to you what the situation was? But it was the next day.
Yeah. Oh, and this thing about it is balancing the warrior and the lover is not easy. It's a journey. It's not a destination. It's about learning to embrace both sides and knowing when each is needed. I think that's where, with you, I learned how to pick and choose my battles instead of having everything as a battle.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes down to balancing the warrior and the lover is probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had done, because the warrior is easy for me because there's no emotions there. It's business. Mm-hmm. And then when it gets down, and I found out I needed that love to balance my life. I needed your love, because doing it my way wasn't as productive. Mm-hmm. And didn't get the point across as much as it does now, because I trust you. And mm-hmm. I think trust and understanding goes a long way in a relationship.
Yeah. Well, I mean, love isn't really about changing each other. It's about supporting each other and growing together and, learning where each other is, learning where you are in that place in life and continuing on the path together. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've come a long way in 10 years, So, I can't think of where we're going to be in another 10. It's going to be, bigger and better. So can't wait for that.
Well, I couldn't imagine my life without you. Because you're my best friend.
Yeah.
My lover, my person.
Yeah.
And so
we're going to see you guys in a couple weeks. And we are going to be talking about
being seen.
Yeah. Because I got vetoed last week. I'm a little bitter about it.
Well, it wasn't in a normal schedule.
I'm a little bitter.
But hey, reflect on where you struggle with balancing your relationship. It's a constant push. You gotta be aware and in the moment and realize that you're not in that combat zone. You're not in this and you're not fighting and everything. You should come home, like what you told me, is your safe space. Mm-hmm. Your safe space to come in and just be be yourself. So try one of today's goals as we wrap this up, and let us know how it goes, because you have the control and understanding, and especially if you have a partner that loves you and you can look at it and go, wow, I get to wake up with you every single day and love life and enjoy everything that life has to offer. Do you have any final words?
No.
Other than that, thank you guys for listening, and hopefully it was helpful in getting you out of that warrior into love and realizing love will bring us together and have great and wonderful life. But you guys take it easy, and thank you for listening.
See ya.
Bye. And we're